New at 6, according to the Defense Prisoner of War and Missing in Action Accounting Agency, there are more than 3,000 Ohioans unaccounted for from World War II. Nearly 80 years ago, a frightened 19-year-old member of the Army Air Corps stepped into a plane for a bombing mission and was never heard from or seen again. And while Veterans Day may be over, the mystery behind the military mission is finally coming into focus.
And it's all thanks to an unlikely stranger. 10 TV's Kevin Landers with the story.
He was excited to become a flyer, and he was 19 years old.
Robert Haverty of Massachusetts was a nose gunner on the B-24 Liberator, a plane that vanished during World War II.
He had it in his head that he could fly enough sorties to get home for Christmas.
The year was 1944, and Staff Sergeant Haverty was assigned to fly a bombing mission to Austria. He wasn't supposed to fly that day.
And the reason is that the nose gunner for that crew ended up having frostbite.
Based on his diary, the family learned the dangers of the missions.
They were all scared all the time. What they did was death-defying every day.
On December 9th, the day the plane took off, the military said bad weather forced the mission to be scrapped while they were en route. It's unclear if Haverty and his crew got the message to turn back.
We still don't know to this day what really happened to them.
Of the 33 planes that took off from that same airfield, only Haverty's plane didn't return. When the war ended in 1945, the military presumed it crashed in the Adriatic Sea.
My father, Donald Haverty, spent his whole life looking for his brother and looking for answers that never came.
Time began to rob the family of the hope of ever finding their uncle's remains.
We've lived in a void of knowing nothing.
Which leads us here, high above this mountain in Croatia. Amateur aviation historian Anton Bertolez begins the search for clues about a military plane that villagers told him crashed nearly 80 years ago.
I am the person who found the wreck site.
The climb was 3 hours, one way.
It's very inhospitable place. It's rocks all over the place.
Villagers who went to the site told him it was a burning graveyard of body parts.
Due to the horrible scene of the crash site and everything, some of the people never went back.
And the military never came to find it. This telegram notified Haverty's parents their son was missing in action.
I found out that it was a B-24 Liberator consolidator because I found parts with production stamps.
He found a dog tag with the name Warren Lowe from Ohio.
I remember I was lying in a bed at night and I could not sleep. I was just thinking about it, what happened.
He searched the name on the internet and connected it to a B-24. Military records led him to more details of the crew.
Somehow I connected the dots, found out what actually happened.
He told a friend, and that friend revealed his father recovered this bracelet from the crash site. Galen Warnock was another crew member. Suddenly, a military mystery was coming into focus.
Without the bracelet, I would still be in the dark.
About the time his discovery was making sense, Don Haverty received a letter in the mail from the Defense Department POW Accounting Agency. A volunteer had done research on the missing plane, its crew, and any living relatives.
And I flip it over and it says, regarding Staff Sergeant Robert Haverty. I hit the floor. I mean, that's something you don't expect to see.
The military confirmed his uncle was on the doomed plane.
And I have the answers that my father had searched for his whole life. It was a big deal.
On this year's Veterans Day, this family, like thousands of others from the war, doesn't have the closure that other military families have. The ashes found on the mountain have not yet been positively identified.
It would be great to be able to, to bring Bobby home. It would be great to give him some sense of peace or some sense of ceremony that he so richly deserves.
But they are closer than ever before to knowing the truth behind the crash that killed the crew of the B-24, all thanks to a Croatian hiker.
I mean, Anton really is a hero for us.
Whose 24 trips to the top of a mountain brought answers no one thought would be found.
Growing up with the questions and wondering was he taken prisoner of war? Did he suffer? I can remember my father struggling with the question about if he went down in the Adriatic, did he drown, and how awful that must have been.
He was trying to get home for Christmas. It was getting close to Christmas time, and every year, if we hear the song "I'll Be Home for Christmas," I guarantee Rick and Donnie are probably starting to cry now too. That was just kind of an anthem that never came true.
That was 10 TV's Kevin Landers reporting. Plans to remove the ashes of the crew came to a halt during COVID, and many of the living relatives are now urging the military to revisit the site to complete the identification process. The military telling the families that it plans to go back to the site next year.